Question. Melissa Hughes.
Should Heathrow Airport have a third runway?
Should Heathrow Airport... Now, we can't fail to do this. Here we are sitting in Heathrow, and the great debate about whether there should be a third runway, an extended runway, Gatwick runway. Governments don't seem to be able to make up their minds. There's a report that's not going to be decided on until safely after the next general election. Joey Barton, without bringing in four girls, what's your view?
I'm never going to live that down, am I?
There you are.
I just added to the repertoire. Well, I'm a little bit biased in this, in terms of I live on the flight path over a queue, so I'm dead against Heathrow having a third runway. And I mean, am I right in thinking the last three parties at the general election had in the manifesto that they were going to be against the third runway? I mean, from what little I've seen about it, or what little I know about it, I've seen the Gatwick proposal, the Heathwick proposal. You know, travel on the tube and seeing that Gatwick or wanting to expand. You know, as somebody who lives on the flight path, I'm dead set against it. I'm surmising most of the people who live in and around Heathrow don't want the extra traffic, don't want the extra pollution. I mean, unless...
So somebody else should have it. It's a NIMBY argument.
Gatwick, I mean, you know, they were talking about making this Heathwick and making it a terminal and putting a high-speed...
But people live around Gatwick too, and they have houses and homes, and there's noise. Yeah,
but they seem to want it. I mean, has anyone done any research to find out whether they want it? I mean, I know Heathrow people, or certainly people in this region, are against it. I mean, what I don't understand is why the other parties on the manifesto were against it, and what's changed, you know, have we got silent planes, is there less pollution? What's changed now to the next election?
The one up there in the second row from the back.
I think they should have a third runway. It's more economical than HS2. Provide more jobs, bring in international jobs. It would be a lot better for the UK as a whole.
Are you all live at one way or another live fairly close to Heathrow? So are you in favour of it?
Yeah, I'm in favour of Heathrow, and I'm also in favour of Gatwick. I think since Gatwick has sort of been the nationalisation was taken off, I think Gatwick should be given a chance to compete for being a global hub. And I know that they've got restrictions till 2018, but their local council is actually in favour of it. I've done some research at UCL as part of my project management course, and a lot of the debate was that definitely Heathrow does need another runway because of the capacity is at maximum. But also, I think Gatwick, they've got a new CEO who's also been renovated City of London at Edinburgh, and I think he should be given a chance to sort of give Gatwick another runway.
What's UKIP's policy on it, Louise Walls?
Well, I have to admit to having a bit of a north-south divide on this one, I'm afraid, because I represent the north-west, and it's a bit like when we had the lead story on the news about the tube strikes. It's really kind of, well, we really don't care if you've got a tube strike in London. It doesn't really affect us in Manchester. And it's kind of a bit like this with the Heathrow runway. But the capacity point, sir, I was reading a little bit about that. And as far as I can see, capacity, you talk about capacity, that's going to create more demand. Now, they had a really good example of that was in Frankfurt in 1984. They had the same kind of problems, and they built the third runway. Now, 2 years ago, they've now built a fourth runway. So if you increase capacity, you will increase demand, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And, you know, we talked, the lady mentioned HS2. You know, this is meant to be disperse economic activity across the country. Well, Heathrow, you get another runway, it's going to, again, suck everything into London. And you know what? There's lots of things going on outside of the M25. I know it's really incredible, but we have flushing toilets, and we have running water in the northwest, and Manchester's a great city, and Liverpool's a great city, and I would like to see, come on, let's see some of that economic activity diverted to other areas. But picking up on what Joey said, you know, I believe passionately, UKIP believe passionately that the people should have a say, and it's you that's going to be affected, the people who live in this area. And so it's absolutely vital that you are consulted, and you have to have that through a local referenda. And if the people who are here, who are affected in London, don't want it, it shouldn't happen.
Piers Morgan.
Job creation where?
You know what?
All over the country.
This seems to me a classic British debate that we're now having, which is we're finding endless excuses not to do something which I think is absolutely overwhelmingly in our interest to do. Heathrow is the #1 aviation brand that we have in this country. America, where I live most of the time, they love Heathrow. They don't talk about Gatwick. it doesn't have the same prestige, and I don't think against Gatwick, but Heathrow is our blue-ribboned airport, if you like. We need the capacity. We want to encourage the people who are going to be flooding in from China, from America, from other countries, the Far East predominantly. They're going to come in, and they're going to come from their own airports, which are sensational. You know, I've been to Shanghai, I've been to many parts of the Far East and the Middle East. Their airports are way ahead of most of ours. However, go to Terminal 5 here at Heathrow, a fantastic terminal. Recently voted one of the best terminals in the world. I've used it all the time. It's tremendous. This terminal here, Terminal 2, about to open, is modelled on Terminal 5. It looks fantastic. We should be proud of this. And we should say, right, we have something special here. We are redeveloping Heathrow to become a genuinely world-class airport. Let's give them a third runway. Let's become not just one of the best airports in the world, let's become the best. And let's not be British about it and say, oh, it's noisy. Oh, the traffic's going to be bad. Oh, the pollution.
Joey?
Piers.
Let's be the best.
Well, Piers, you know, if you travel in Heathrow or in
and I live under the path too.
But
it will go over my head.
But you lived in New York.
Yeah.
Well, at the moment, I'm back here for reasons which are slightly beyond my control. But, I mean, the point is I have a house that's going to be on the flight path too. That's not the point. I mean, the 747, so you know, when it was introduced, was the noisiest aircraft in the world. It's now one of the quietest. Right? You've got to work out these planes are getting quieter.
When you say, what do you mean by quietest? Because we were listening
planes are getting quieter, Joey.
Yeah, but not that quiet.
Technology will mean they will continue to get quieter.
But
Do not let noise
and
pollution and traffic stop us building a world-class airport that makes us see. Well, you know what? Build another one in Manchester and Birmingham and anywhere else you want to build one. I don't see you begging to do it.
All right.
And one in... let these people decide.
All right, and one in Glasgow, Margaret Curran.
And I, of course, have to tell you how wonderful Glasgow is.
Yeah, but you don't have to do that.
Fantastic.
Build one in Glasgow! Build one everywhere!
Yes.
Of course, what the trick in this and the difficulty in this is you have to balance out economic development, and I think Piers has made that argument very strongly. You can't always roll things out because a certain group of people don't want them, but we also, as a country and across the globe, have to take account of aviation emissions too. That is a challenge. So I think it's right, believe it or not, what the government have done through the Davis Commission. It is the proper way to come to this conclusion is to look at evidence-led policy, where we look at the different arguments and you try to come to a conclusion that allows you, hopefully, to look at noise pollution and such like, but also look if we can do something about CO2 emissions. But I wouldn't want to be in a position where we're undercutting developments in the South East, and that's not an argument against developments elsewhere in the rest of the country.
Okay.
Because I do think point-to-point air travel and our airports across Scotland and Britain are equally important.
David Willits, if you can answer very briefly, because I want to get in one more question before we end.
But of course, this is absolutely a political challenge. We've got Joey giving one sort of passionate arguments and Piers giving the opposite argument equally passionately. And that's why I do think having an outside independent expert, Howard Davis, who is looking through the options, is going to assess all these arguments we're hearing about noise or pollution or global hubs. It's best to give him the objective analysis and look forward to his report. That's the only way we're ever going to resolve this.
Look, I live on the flight path. It's noisy, mate. It is. Maybe they'll get quieter, but it is noisy. Anyone who lives on it will testify to it. You hear them going over. All right. The thing that strikes me about it is the expanding Gatwick theory, you know, and you can, they were talking about putting the 15 minutes or 20 minutes high-speed link between the two, so then Gatwick, it essentially becomes Heathwick.
But Joey, Gatwick is not in London. London is our capital city. But it should be the pride of the country, and it should be the one that we work hardest to make the best.
I'm going to bow to Louis.